experience includes working on the UNICEF, ICAR, and government-funded projects covering topics such as public finance of children, climate change impacts, and social inequalities. Thank you, Dr. Karthik, for agreeing to speak today. And now, over to you. You can speak around 50 minutes, and then we
Yeah,
can take. Yeah,
yeah, sure.
yeah. Please tell.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Vinod Misra, sir. And hello, everyone. Very good evening to all of you. Before I start off my lecture, I would like to thank Dr. Vinod Misra for inviting me and also the organizers such as Indian Institute of Dalit Studies as well as CDS and other esteemed institutes and forums for this great opportunity to be part of the celebrating 75 years of Constitution lecture series. The title of today's lecture is 75 Years of Indian Constitution. Have constitutional rights and public policies eliminated discrimination in the agriculture credit market? I feel that this topic is still relevant even after 75 years of adoption of Constitution. Hence, we are gathered here. And before the deeper discussion, so I just would like to brief about the topic. Uh, when the India Constitution adopted 75 years ago, it made provisions such as constitutional rights and public policies which have sought to ensure equal opportunities to all, includes access to agriculture credit as it is essential for rural livelihoods even now. However, despite legal safeguards, marginalized groups such as scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, women, tenant farmers, and religious minorities are facing systemic barriers, systematic discrimination in obtaining credit. Hence, this presentation examines whether constitutional provisions and public policies have successfully eliminated discrimination in the agriculture credit market or not. So I carefully consider the following topics for the discussion, which talks not much about the constitution, neither the complete public policy issues in the agriculture, but I will be focusing what the constitutional rights in the constitution given to have equality or equal opportunity for everybody, and also policies and legal framework related to the credit access, and then I will be discussing about why agriculture credit rather other other credit access. And then finally, I'll come to the caste discrimination. Why caste discrimination instead of other factors, other dimension which also influences caste discrimination? Discrimination. So first, I'll be starting with constitutional rights. This slide discusses the provisions of the constitutional right that treats everyone equal before the law. As we know that the Indian Constitution was adopted in November 26, 1949, and it came to force on 26th of January 1950. When it was adopted, it enshrines or it protects fundamental rights of every individual, and it aimed at ensuring equality and social justice. Such key constitutional protections are Article 14, Article 15, Article 19, and Article 46. What Article 14 says, which is right to equality. It ensures equal treatment before the law, including in financial services like agriculture credit. Whereas Article 15, it says that prohibition of discrimination. It prevents discrimination based on caste, religion, sex, place of birth, then other aspects. What Article 19(1)(g) says, which is right to trade and business, which means it includes the right to engage everybody in any of every like all kind of business and trade, including agriculture, right? Whereas Article 46, that is promotion of weaker section, directs the state to promote the economic interest of all the weaker sections, including scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and other marginalized groups, right? So with this, these all key constitutional protections provide a legal framework to eliminate discrimination in all socio-economic, geographic, and political spheres. But the question is, isn't it? Are we all free from institutional discrimination? At least in the case of credit or loan access, let's explore them in the later slides. But now I will be talking about legal and public policy framework. So in this slide, why I am stressing the word institutional uh, loan access. So here, because the constitutional framework doesn't support informal credit, informal lending. So like most of you worked on the credit market definitely know about from 1951 onwards or much before 1904 the cooperative society. So they all know that the history of RBI, how it evolved and why RBI have come and why all these policies have come. Okay, but briefly I'll just explain these policies. These are the few policies which are legally allowing everyone to access equal credit market. So the first policy is priority sector lending, which came in 1969, and it mandates that banks allocate a portion of their loans to small and marginal farmers, SCs and ST farmers. Whereas the RBI in 1935 and NABARD 1982 also ensures that lending quotas for banks to improve financial access of all the categories. Whereas Kisan credit card schemes also introduced in 1998, which provides short-term credit to farmers at subsidized interest rate, which means everybody across all the categories should have the loan at the subsidized interest rates. Whereas self-help group and microfinance programs also have been introduced after the successful implementation in the Bangladesh by the current ruler of the Bangladesh, who is Yunus Khan, Mohammad Yunus. So which also aims to improve credit access for women and landless farmers, because till that point women and landless farmers were facing difficulties to get into the credit access and the credit market. But right after introducing self-help groups and microfinance programs, and they are kind of empowered and using those credit and for the all using for all other purposes, including agriculture. Whereas the recent development in the credit market is Mudra and Stand Up India schemes, which also promotes financial inclusion through easier loans for marginalized entrepreneurs, including farmers. So, why I chosen this agriculture credit access? Okay, so because the I discussed all of them in the 3 points. The major point is that agriculture credit is necessary for agricultural growth because it is an effective mechanism to enhance the production and consumption of all households, right? So because of that, access to credit is directly proportional to agricultural productivity, and because of that, households income also increases in many of the developing countries, including India. Credit is one of the input which also is the main input. Because of that, many inputs can be purchased. Like when you have credit, when you have loan, you can purchase fertilizer, you can purchase seeds, you can also use machineries for all the plumbing and other cultural activities. So the credit is main input in case of agriculture. And the second point is that Indian agriculture is mainly dominated by the marginal and small farmers, right? So among most of them within the marginal small farmers are belongs to SC and STs, caste and scheduled tribals. This is second point, right? The third point is that even now informal informal lending is still dominating in the credit market, especially in agriculture sector, and only 50% of agriculture loans are comes from the formal loans. And within the formal, we have many formal sectors like commercial bank, we have cooperative banks, and we have other microfinancial institutions. But the major share comes from two sector. One is scheduled commercial bank and the cooperative banks. Okay, so now the discussion is that have we had inclusiveness in agriculture credit access? Have we achieved that inclusiveness at least in the agriculture sector? Well, despite constitutional protections, marginalized sections continue to face discrimination against agriculture credit access. There are studies shows that rural populations still lack access to formal banking services, right? And then still, studies says that less than 20 crore of people across 120 crore, which is old estimates, now it's 140 crore, right? Of the population borrowed formal loans, which means 20 crore means it's less, not even 10%. Mm. So then other point is that higher caste households among all, their borrowing is more than the other caste counterparts. So so which this slides comes says that still the inclusiveness we have not achieved. Still there is exclusiveness. This in the at least in the case of agriculture credit market. And there are studies also says as lack of land ownership, and then male dominated banking sector, reigns of informal lenders. These also again reasons for the discrimination against women and landless farmers. And now I'm coming to the section where we can discuss uh, why, whether there are any evidences in the credit market against marginalized sections. So yes, the studies around the world shows that black people are discriminated, and whereas in India there are studies shows that we have multiple factors which determines discrimination. For example, w- we can say that education, age, gender, outstanding past loans, repayment ability, caste affiliation, the land size, asset ownership and leasing in land, poor quality of land, asset-based lending, low bargaining power, bureaucratic formalities and policies of financial institutions, and the role of agencies. These all are having, these all are having influencing in the credit market when it comes to access to credit. Not only caste, but there are other factors. But when again it comes to the caste, these all the factors are reason for the caste. Caste is reason for all other factors. That I'll come to the sections later. And now, why focus on caste discrimination? So, having said that, having listed out all the discrimination factors in the previous slide, why I focus only caste discrimination? Because even though if you have seen this previous in this slide, we have education, age, gender, poor quality of land, all these also the important factors. But caste is the root cause for all of these things, because we know that Indian society is caste-based society, and till now it determines many of access to resources and opportunities, and all other economic outcomes. For example, studies also shows that caste influences income and expenditure, caste influences capital and labor, caste influences capital, and caste influences education and occupation, caste influences occupation and employment, caste influences ownership of private enterprise, caste influences children's nutritional status, caste also influences irrigation water, caste also influences access to credit and amount of credit, and caste also influences maternal health and benefit out of maternal health. So because of all these things, when caste is influencing everything, and we also come to the consensus that caste influences credit market in the agriculture sector. And now I come to the detailed discussion about all these things which I discussed earlier. So I have focused on agriculture credit market because I listed out all the reasons earlier. So here, what I did that this comes from mostly from my thesis, my research, and I for my study have taken 3 rounds of NSSO data. Through the data, I try to establish that caste is main factor that influences credit market. So for that I used 3 rounds of NSSO, which the first survey which I used for my studies 1991, and the second round is 2003, and then the third round is 2012. All these rounds values are standardized, which means which I converted into the constant price at 2012. So here in the table I presented all formal credit as well as commercial formal credit and the cooperative bank credit for all 3 years, and the household credit gap, and then mean credit. So what is household credit gap is that it is just nothing but the proportion of households to the proportion of credit which they have received. So if you see that the gap between the households, suppose assumes that yeah if if like 50% of households of agriculture, they're getting the loan, and their loan for particular category, if their loan also is 50%, then the ratio should be like 50 by 50, it's 1, right? So similarly, I've just converted, just for the example I just mentioned this 50-50. So here, since the large population of India is OBC, and second most population is SC, and the third most is forward caste, and the last one is ST. So the population wise, if you see the OBC farmers, I'm not actually saying about the OBC in general, I'm saying the OBC farmers here. So the OBC farmers should get more credit, then followed by SC because of their population. And I consider, again, there is a question here whether I have included landless or landholding farmers. All my study includes only landholding farmers, which means there is no question about landless farmers as well. So in that case, again, the SC category, which is second in population, should get the second most loan. But then the third one should go to the forward caste, and the last one should come to the ST. But if you see the household credit gap, again, the gap is more among SC and STs in terms of formal credit. If you see, that is the case with first two lines here, SC and ST. So sorry, I see that the gap is positive, which means that there is a large gap exist between the households and their credit. Right, right. If you just see the next columns like mean credit, then as I mentioned that the caste, the first caste which is more population, that is OBC, they should get more credit. But if you see the credit amount here, who is getting more credit? It is actually the forward caste, then follows OBC, then follows SC, and then follows ST, right? So, which is very clear that there is a caste hierarchy here. The mean credit follows the caste hierarchy, right? So, why it is so? Because the caste influence, because the upper caste actually still plays a role in every aspect, every economic aspects. That's why they receives more loan than the other caste. And then now I come to, I just with this descriptive table, then I also try to see the inequality of credit by using the tail T index. And then yeah, if you see this table majorly, then you may see that there must be some land factor and other factors includes. So that is the reason I just bifurcated this table into the land size wise. And here if you see again, and then I divided the land size into four category: marginal, small, semi medium, and others. Because of the less sample size in the case of large sample, I included medium and large together. And most of you don't know what is the land classification here. So marginal means it is less than 1 hectare, and whereas small means it is one between 1 to 2 hectares, and semi-medium it is 2 to 4, whereas others means it's above 4 hectare land. So if you see here the ratio, so I have omitted OBC here because the previous slide shows that the gap of household credit between OBC and FC is very less. That's the reason. I mean, it's a negative. So that's the reason I just focused only SC, ST, because they are the very much vulnerable in Indian case, right? If you see again the commercial bank and cooperative bank, the inequality values which I estimated from the TN, uh, tail index, tail index is higher than FC. If you see the ratio of ST, I mean the tail index value of ST versus SC, if you see here within marginal, STs are more, um, sorry, it is low. So when it comes to the low, tail index T says that the lowest value indicates the higher inequality. Okay, so if you see this, all the land classes, especially within marginal and small, if you see both SC and STs, their values between 1991 and 2012, their inequality values are lower than FCs, which is very clear. It's very clear cut. It says that the inequality is more among SC STs, and especially marginal and small. If you recollect my previous, the previous slides, saying that in India, Indian farmers are mostly smaller farmers, and especially SC and STs are more in small, I mean, contributes more to the margin small, which is very clear that saying that SC, ST who are margin small, they are they have, I mean, unequal opportunity in terms of access to credit. And now, I try to, okay, so now the previous slide says that it's descriptive statistics, and the next slide says that it is inequality. Now I try to do some kind of econometric analysis so that it captures also other factors, because in the previous slides it shows that it's a one-to-one relationship, whereas most of you know the econometrics analysis, they will understand that um, so this so the econometric analysis captures, it's a cause and relationship, which also includes not only the variable of interest, which also includes other factors also. It counts other factors as well. So for that, I what I have done is that I used in this case my independent variable is access to formal credit, which means whether the farmers have access to credit or not. So if they have accessed, then they are they are considered as a one. If they have not accessed, then they are zero, right? So uh, for that I just first I included the caste factors, so that first I just wanted to show you the picture that whether caste is a main factor or caste is not only a main factor, right? So here I'm just focusing the first model result, and here if you see that compared to forward caste, all the categories OBC, SC, ST, they all have less likelihood of access to credit in case of formal lending, formal loan, right? So the negative sign indicates that they are less likely, and highly significant because of the t value. T value is above 1.66, which is is considered the lowest or the moderate or marginal level of significance, that is 0.100 in terms of p value. So if you consider this thing, so here you can see that all these categories, they have less likelihood of access to credit, again, I mean, compared with forward caste, right? Now what I'm going to do is that not only caste, I'm just also including other factors, because they may say that there must be other characters that influences not only caste. So that's the reason I included the second category. I included economic factors, that is, in that I considered land size, asset, and whether they have irrigated loan or irrigated land or not, because mostly the loans are based on the irrigated land, because the Indian case, we cultivate more of the crops based on the uh, irrigation, right? So that's why I used irrigated, whether the irrigated land which is which is hectare, and then asset is in amount rupees, right? This is converted asset into log form. Okay, then land size here. You see here, yes, irrigated land. If you have more irrigated land, of course you will get more access to credit, because the sign says that it is positive and it is significant. Whereas asset, yes, you have more asset value, still again it induces your access to credit. It is positive, the sign is positive, as well as it is significant, the star mark indicates significant, right? So yes, but now you come to the land size. So whereas in case of other economic factors such as irrigated asset, we can't guarantee that all of them have more asset, all of them have more irrigated land, right? So irrigated land, it depends on again the land size, again, I mean, it depends on the social structure here. If you go to the village, who is having more of irrigated land and more of assets, it is not actually the SC and ST farmers, it is actually the upper caste and OBC farmers, right? The land says also says that compared to large farmers, the marginal and small farmers' access to credit is less likelihood. You see, it is negative in the sense like in case of sign, and it's also significant, right? So it says that compared to large farmers, both marginal and small farmers have less likelihood of access to credit, even after. I mean, okay, yeah, even after considering economic factors, if you see the first one social factors, see the second model two says that SC and STs have less likelihood of access to credit. This OBCs become insignificant. That is because they consider their economic factors will help them here. Irrigated and asset will help them to get the credit. That's why it reduces their negative significance, which means they have advantage of both irrigated and asset, right? And this is about the this slide. So now I think you were understanding that even including the economic factors, still the caste plays major role. And now I'm including the third category, that is demographic factor, which means here I'm considering the education level of the head of the households, and the age of the head of the households, and the household size. Because I why I used these variables, when when there is a more number of people in the households, we expect that all of them works in the land, and there because of that the productivity will increase, right? So when the productivity will increase and they get more output and the more outcome, and that makes them no easy repayment of their previous loans, that will again leads to them the new loans, right? Yes, that is true in case of household size. If you have more number, yes, it is increasing your accessibility in the credit market. That is true, that is positive and significant. And whereas in age of the household, yes, because compared to the lower age, of course, if you have experienced if you have ex- if you're experienced farmers, then you are tended to get more um, more a loan, because you have experience and you know the farm, you know the bankers, and you know how to get the loan, and you know how to repay the loan. You must be having the previous experience, and all this counts, right? And then education, you see, the education compared to the higher level of education, sorry, compared to the illiterate education, the farmers who have education which is primary, middle, and second graduation, which means that the education, when the education level increases, and they have more accessibility of the formal credit compared to the illiterate. But the Indian case, most of the farmers right now, the scenario have been little changed, but even though it has changed, but not all the educated people are working in the farmer. Even though the farmers educated, and they move out of the farming. So here he says that the illiterate farmers are less likelihood of access to credit. So now again, still if you see the previous I mean, even after including the demographic factors, economic factors, and the caste factor still influences. You see these changes here. Although the level of the coefficient comes down, but still the caste plays a role. Which if you see here, okay, the model three, if you see the SC and ST, their coefficient still it is negative and significant, right? Now again, I'm including one more factor, that is takes care of the regional variations. So the regional variations here is that, like, I divided India into the six regions: north, central, east, southwest, um, north. I think north, east, southwest, south, and I think northeastern. Yes. So if you see all these, like, uh, compared to the northeast, or sorry, northeast, no, 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 central east, or eastern central. So the other regions, if you see, all of them have less likelihood, which means that the regions from these farmers, they have, sorry, western region, sorry, the western region. So western region belongs to the states of Maharashtra, Gujarat, and the smaller states of Goa, and then Daman, Diu. That is mostly because the cooperative movement, it is started in Maharashtra initially, and it's very large, it's a massive cooperative movement. And cooperative movement is very successful in Maharashtra compared to any other states. So because of Maharashtra being a large state, it captures the western regions characteristics altogether. So compared to western state, all other states have less likelihood of access to credit. But now the point is not about the region. Point is not about the economic factors. The point is not about the democratic factors. But even after includes all these factors, if you see the caste factors, still they are significant, and they're less likely to the both SC and STs, which means that you include factors, as many factors as available, but still the caste variation is there in terms in the case of access to credit market, which means the caste is the main factor that plays, that hinders, that actually, that affects the farmers get into the access to credit. Okay, now, so now I have, like, so far I have I have explained about the regression results. Now I come to the specialized method which actually measures the discrimination. That method is called as Okaka blended decomposition method, which is mostly used in the labor market, but it has also been applied in the other sector as well, in health, or agriculture, or in other aspect also it's been applied. So using that method, what it says that it actually takes care of, it follows the carry Becker's discrimination theory, which says that, which is a relative difference where you have the x minus y by y. So here x stands for the higher caste, and y stands for the lower caste, and then divided by, again, y stands for the lower caste, which is relative differences. What is absolute? You know the absolute difference, which means x minus y, right? So here, instead of taking absolute difference, this method used is that this method used a relative difference x minus y by y, and then they converted this relative difference into the semi-logarithmic format which proposed by Mincer, and then they applied that method into the Oaxaca-blended decomposition model where they run two separate regression for the two category, which is x and y, which can be the for upper, I mean the advantages group and the less advantages group, right? Then they did this decomposition regression, and they found that there is a differences in endowment, and there is also differences in the coefficients. So the coefficient difference is termed as discrimination, whereas the employment, sorry, endowment difference is explained as a explained or the factors influence, which means there's that. So after including all these factors like caste, I mean, um, since we are using for two categories, so we are excluding the caste, all the caste factors. So we are focusing only two category. For example,
Since most of them doesn't come from the statistics economic background, so I
mm,
request you to make it simple as
yes,
possible so that we
yes.
can understand. Thank you.
Yes, 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 yes,
Please.
yes. So no, the simple thing is that the factors which I and somebody is having maybe all the same characteristics, how much that is explained, that is called endowment difference. But the factor, the difference which is explained not by this endowment factor which I and somebody is having, that is called unexplained difference. That is called as discrimination, right? So in that case, if you see the explained difference is more in case of all the formal credit, but it also accounted unexpected difference, that is discrimination, that is around 31% in case of commercial bank, and 12% in case of cooperative bank, and that is against SC. In case of ST, 24% in commercial bank and 29% again in the cooperative bank, which means that the caste discrimination still prevails in the credit market on and around 30% against both SC and ST. That's what I mean to say that. And then again, advantage of being FC and disadvantage is again saying that if somebody is forward caste and they have higher advantage than the non FC category, which that you can see in these two color, which is yellow and red or orange, right? So that is what this slide discusses. And this slide again discusses about the amount. The previous slide discussed about the access, but whereas in case of the amount wise, if you see, the amount is again the high for the forward caste than the lower caste. And then now, okay, so now we may say that the amount may be the smaller or larger. It depends. That's why if some farmer get larger amount, some farmer will get lower amount. So the lower amount cannot be considered as discrimination when compared to larger amount. Exactly, that's true. That is why there is another method that decomposes into the different quantiles, which means the different quantiles in the sense you might know that the 100% divided into different quantile. For example, 10 quantile means 10, 10, 10. 5 quantile means 20, 20, 20. So like that divides. So why it divides that? The lower variation you can see in the lower amount, right? Then the higher variation you can see in the higher amount. In that way, we divided. So if you see that 0.0 and then 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, these are all quantiles, right? So the higher in terms of higher amount also, in terms of lower amount also, or from the lower amount to higher amount, you can see there is a difference. There is these two actually for ST versus FC and ST versus FC. Okay, so discrimination still prevails. The discrimination against SC and against FC is around 20 to 30%. That you can see in case of both commercial as well as cooperative bank. But in case of commercial, the discrimination is more for the SCs than the STs. But whereas the cooperative, initially for the smaller amount, STs are more discriminated. Whereas the amount increases, again the SCs are more discriminated uh, th- than the FCs. But their discrimination is more. But whereas SCs also discriminated here. Oh, now I come to the conclusion summary that. While public policies have improved access to credit for some marginalized groups, discrimination still persists in formal as well as informal banking access. Although we did not count informal, but still it is the discrimination is existing there as well. The constitutional rights have provided a legal foundation, but implementation gaps remain large. Because of that, we have all these problems. I also we started with constitutional frameworks, and again I started with, I mean again I explained, I mean I mentioned about the legal framework, right? Even though all these, we have laws, we have policies, but still we have discrimination. Why? There is a large gap in the implementation. Right? The agriculture credit market still favors dominant caste, then male farmers, and then land owning farmers, while the most vulnerable sections such as SC/ST farmers, women farmers, then they are facing struggles in financial inclusions. So having said all of that, that okay, so here I have not included, I have not did analysis against women and religious and you know um, farmers. That's because my focus was on only caste. That's why I didn't do it. Maybe if somebody's interested, you can focus on that. So having said that, whether has 75 years of constitutional and policy efforts eliminate discrimination? This is $1 billion question. I leave it to you that you decide yourself. So based on all these points, or you can do research on yourself, and you found the reason. You please found the reason whether found the result that whether discrimination eliminated or not. Now, despite 75 years of constitutional protections and policy interventions, discriminations in the agricultural credit market remains reality. To achieve true financial inclusion, India must strengthen enforcement mechanisms because we have seen that large gap is existing in the implementation level, and adopt inclusive credit models and addresses systematic biases in lending institutions. Okay, for that reason, as mentioned in the SDGs target 10.2 that promotes the social inclusion, and 10.3 promotes in eliminating discriminatory laws, policies and practices, and promoting appropriate legislation. And I demand, or I suggest the government of India to implement Credit Opportunity Act, which also exists in the US and Canada, which abolishes the credit against race in case of these countries, but we want to implement this law um, against caste, against against minorities, against marginalized sections of India. So that's it about the lecture, and I just read out. I mean, you can read out the preamble. It says that equality of status and opportunity and promote among them all. But our constitution, yes, it provides equality, but we have not achieved equality. Still, we face discrimination. Thank you for listening to me patiently. I don't know how much I have cleared, and whether it was, I made everything clear to you. If not clear, we can discuss now. Thank you so much for listening
Thank
to me.
you. Thank you, Dr. Karthik. It was wonderful. And you really covered so many aspects of access to credit and also discrimination related to access to credit. Before I open it for the audiences, I have two questions. First is that did you see about the access to credit with the size of land holding in India? One, and secondly, what about this always rush during election time to waive off the loan, and also how do you link with the politics of loan waivers with this caste discrimination also? Did you see that also?
Yeah. Can I respond to the question now, sir?
Yes, yes, two, and then we'll take others. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So the first question is whether I have included land holding for the access to credit. Yes, I included. That's the reason I also mentioned that in the descriptive analysis. First, it showed only the overall SCST credit, and the second part, in case of inequality analysis, I specifically used land size because somewhere in the slides I mentioned that large portion of smaller India is mostly small and large farmers. I mean, small and marginal farmers, and within them there are mostly SC/ST farmers. That's the reason I included both the factors. I accounted them, and after seeing that only, I come to the conclusion that yes, even after including land size. There is a discrimination against SST farmers. And the second question is election time wave off. I have not actually looked at the this perspective because I used secondary data, and I also used primary data which I covered from Tamil Nadu using my primary survey. But this was not my. I mean, I have not covered this. But one thing is that during the election time, when the political parties they say wave off, of course, this wave off is helpful to only to the larger farmers, because if you see from the slides as well, if you see mostly large number of farmers only they get mostly loan, and since their loan is high, so what the government will do when they and also another thing is that the large farmers used to get more than one loans. When even if one or two loans is like waived off among them, it is very beneficial to them. But what happens in case of marginal small farmers, their loan amount is very low. So even if the wave off is happening to them, but it is of actually not beneficial to them. Yes, of course, by the, to the extent, yes, but already, but the thing is, what happened is that the next time, because of this factor, the farmers cannot get the loan. The bankers say that last time you did not pay your loan, so the your loan was waived off by the government. So since you did not pay, the government waive off your loan, and this time also you will not repay. So we will not give you loan. But it is not the case with large farmers, because the large farmers they have more than one loan, and one of the loan will be waived off, and the other loan they will pay because they have the asset, and as well as they have also repaying capacity. And also it's not actually repaying capacity. There are studies also shows that the large farmers they are the defaulters, more defaulters than the lower um, the less land holding farmers. So that is also there. So which in this case, a wave off actually will benefit to only the large farmers and the upper cost farmers, not actually benefit to the lower cost as well as marginal small farmers. I think answer to your question.
Yes, Karthik, thank you. And one more additional like link to this, the second one is that this PM Kisan Samman Yojana, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So, did it have any impact to sort of reducing the loan and debt on the farmers? Yeah.
Oh,
Have you
yes.
seen any articles or anything? Yeah.
So far, I have not come to, I mean, I have not actually searched in this angle. And because PM Kisan, this information is not, I mean, this is there, how many participants, I mean, how many farmers have accessed this PM Kisan, but actually, this is not linked with the loan. And then PM Kisan is a kind of, scheme which helps farmers to access all other inputs, not only credit, all other inputs as well. But this is not the only scheme which also deals with the credit part. And since this is new scheme, recent phenomena, and it was not captured in any of the secondary data source. Maybe if I do field work, if I do some project on this, or if somebody is working on this, maybe they will find that. But as
Yes,
far
I
as my
meant that only. Did you come across any literature who has
no, I
covered
think
this?
I have not come across any literature on PM Kisan as of now. And because, moreover, another thing is that whenever we ask the data related to any of the schemes and all, nowadays we are not getting. Earlier, at least we used to get this RTI, but nowadays we are not getting. We are not getting any
Yes,
of information. So RTI also
yes,
I tried for some other purposes. I tried RTI, applied RTI to the SBI and State Level Bankers Committee, seeking that. Please give me details of the farmers across different caste and how many times they have applied and what is the proportion that you have sanctioned their loan. But the response was that we don't maintain that record. But the thing is, application, if you see in application, they have the cost information.
I
If they
understand.
don't maintain that record, then why they have to um, um, correct that
Yes,
information? So
yes, yes.
that's the
Right.
nature now. We don't have the data to link with PM Kisan and the credit market discrimination.
Okay, I may come in the end also again. So I'm opening it for the question now. I'm sure there will be a lot of question because all the partners and friends here are working at the grassroots level, so they must be aware of the problems of the farmers. So I request to ask the question. Please unmute and ask.
Uh, Sir, I'm not hearing any questions.
I think people are still thinking about the question. Maybe give us
Okay.
2 minutes. Maybe
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No
people
problem.
are
Please, please.
framing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Maybe by the time people come, you can just throw light upon whether it's does it have any impact on agroclimatic region?
Actually, it is not much, but yes, to the extent it is having some influence. So, what my study also that from my primary survey, I also captured my agroclimatic informations. But thing is, the sample was very less because agroclimate zone is very vast, and then I from Tamil Nadu, I think there are seven agroclimate zones, but I collected information from only five. From each district, only 65 samples, and that to spread across. So I need we need the large data actually to prove this information. So right now I'm working with a project for the Canada government, and here I am actually collecting 400 samples. I think this will again, I think it will definitely, I feel that there will be some in correlation from the between agroclimate zones and credit, but again within the agroclimate zones, whether agroclimate zones are whether it's a high rainfall, low rainfall, or dry zone doesn't matter, but under each zone there will be a two three caste, so all are just living nearby, and then the variation may reflect on the yield, but I don't think the variation will reflect on the access to credit. Of course, maybe the yield will be less, all those things fine. But the thing is, if the farmer's yield is very low, the next time they won't go for the loan only. Whenever they get the high rainfall only, then farmers tend to approach the bank. Otherwise,
Yeah.
nobody goes to the bank. So in that case, I don't feel that climatic variations will have effect on here, but I don't have data to prove that. It's my assumption, my theory.
So, I mean, why I was asking this question is that there are number of suicide cases related to the debt, farmers' debt in many dry-prone areas. So, did you link it to something related to the cropping pattern? Somebody has moved with the in those regions where there's no climate is suitable and people have adopted certain crops which is not as per the climate, and that's why the debt has increased.
Yes, actually, I have not linked it with the farmer suicide, but yes, farmers face a very difficult situation when they get more loan. But what happens actually in the field level or at the farmer level is that they get the loan and then they can't repay because the climate is like uncertain. They can't repay, and the next time again they assume. I mean, they expect that they get another. I mean, the good rainfall, so they go for loan again and still they get it, and then the second time also if it failed, then they will be disheartened and they will take this extreme step. But it is not actually the it is, yes, it is to the extent it is true, but mostly the bankers who tortures farmers, the bankers who's behind the farmers every time, and they try to the torture them. You pay the loan, or we we mortgage your assets, these that this kind of tortures farmers cannot take it, and they take this extreme step. And farmer suicides are yes, it's available, but who is, again, if you see the who is committing suicide more, I am not sure, but I have seen somewhere the some statistics saying that the farmer suicides mostly happening among uh, marginal and small farmers, not actually with the large farmers, because large farmers they have the backup, they have the credit worthiness, so they can pay back the loan, or they are the rich farmers and they are the caste higher upper caste farmers, and they can have nexus with the bankers, the bank managers. So there is no problem with them. But the problem which actually faces by the small farmers and marginal farmers, which also happens to be Dalit and tribal farmers. So
Yeah.
yes, of course, the suicide due to the loan burden is happening mostly at the lower level, not at the higher.
Yes, and yes, and also it's taken to crop insurance and
Yes.
I understand.
And the
There are a lot
crop
of stuff.
insurance mostly doesn't work. If you see, if you ask the farmers, they say that what crop insurance, crop insurance, they directly will say that they come and see, crop insurance concept is actually um, the area which is affected, they won't go to that area. Actually, the area which is nearby place, they go and check. It is actually random. They have the criteria where they can collect the samples. But the samples which they collect, which if it is not affected, then they will not give the premium to the insurance to the other farmers, which actually the affected farmers. So many a times, this crop insurance scheme is actually not helpful, not beneficial to anybody, not only the lower caste, no, even for upper caste also, it is not beneficial. That's what I witnessed from my field work.
You're right. You're right. Okay, so I don't know whether other people are interested in asking questions. Um, mm, yeah, please come in. Yes, engineer.
Uh, Sir, I am engineer Ahmad Dodoj from Himachal Pradesh. Uh, Problem is this that many marginalized communities are landless in India. I think more than 45-50% people, they are not having the land. Even single this you see Marla, they are landless. They don't have the land to construct the house even. Or then we were devoured from the share of land in the ancient time, in the previous time. You know the history, and I think that the equal distribution of land is not there, then we cannot think over about agriculture and its produce and all that. We can't compete like that. And the landless people, they are not getting the kisan that you see प्राइम मिनिस्टर का जो पैसा आ रहा है हमारे पास योजना के तहत, और वहाँ भी नहीं पहुँच रहा है। और दूसरी बात यह है कि मैं जानना चाहता हूँ कि देयर इज यू सी a lot of land is available with the government. Why are they not distributing it to the marginalized communities and the landless people? And yeah, do you suggest that what steps are to be taken by the government to equalize the land distribution? Thank you very much.
Uh, Thank you, sir. Thank you for your beautiful questions. Yes, you are very right. We are absolutely right in terms of landless. But I want to tell you two things here. My study completely focused on the farmers who has land. So in that case, I am just no. So I'm just my study is completely on the land holding farmers. But keeping that aside, now I come to the landless farmers here. Yes, you are saying that landless farmers. But what happens is that government is also not through the policy. They also mention that landless farmers also should get the credit, but in the practical, the bankers, they are not ready to give, because they say that you show me your land on your name, or you show me some other titles. But farmers, mostly what happens is that the large farmers, even though they get they kind of lease the land from the neighboring farmers, but what happens is that they show their own land and they get the loan, and they use that loan for the leased in land. But whereas in case of small farmers or landless farmers, even though they take the land, but they get the leased land. But what happens? The leased land, who are those leased land owners? They are mostly the upper caste farmers, or the OBCs, or the who are migrated, who are unable to take care of the land. They give to the lower caste people to take care of their land, because they'll be
Yeah.
settled some abroad, some other cities and all. So mostly
Yeah.
whenever these loyal farmers, I mean the tenant farmers, who is actually taking care of the upper caste farmers, they can't ask the title. And when they ask, they will say that why do we need it? They may think that these people will steal the land. Why would they give their title? Why would they give their land title to the landless farmers?
Right.
So it's very difficult. So that is answer to your question on the landless farmers. The second one is equal distribution. Yes, we don't have equal distribution. That is
Okay.
true. And why land is not distributed? Sir, we have the law. We have the law that the land should be distributed to the landless farmers. It is, I think, 1991 itself, the law distributed. I mean, the law is implemented. That is, I think, Panjami. In case of Tamil Nadu, it is called the Panjami land distribution, but I am not sure what exactly it is called in other states. But this land distribution, I think we all are aware from this land distribution from uh, Dadaji Vinobabe, right? So through his movement, it started that land distribution to the landless farmers. To the extent this land distribution had happened, and it is to the extent it is successful in southern states, especially in Tamil Nadu,
Mm.
not even in other states, but it is actually not implemented in northern states. That is because of the caste influence, the dominant caste influence. So the government also it's influenced by the large, I mean, dominant caste. So because of that, they can't
Mm.
implement this land distribution formula in every state, and otherwise they lose the power. So you are very right. When we distribute land to the landless farmers, then we can compare them. We can compare the productivity. We can compare the outcome. We can compare the credit. Then we can say that, oh no, there is no distribution. Everybody is having land. Then how come we can say
Yeah,
that discrimination? Yes,
exactly, sir.
but it is
Yeah.
the policy level formula. But law is there. Even the constitution, it gives permission. It gives, it allows everybody to have land. But government is not doing it. That's why it's implementation problem. It's the power problem. We have law. Dr. Ambedkar, when he framed the constitution, he considered everybody. Everybody. He actually not consider only the lower caste. He considered everybody. But the system, the society, which which has the tradition of 2000 years, that actually is a problematic. Thank you. So you are muted. You are muted, sir. Sir, we can't hear you. You are muted. Yeah.
Sir, there is a urgent also against this Land Sealing Act. The
Yes.
people,
Yes.
those
That's
who are holding a lot of land, they are not ready to
yes.
share it.
Yes. So actually, I think there was some writing also. I don't remember. It's a long back I read it. When this land distribution movement started happen, then many states, the large dominant caste groups, they threatened lower caste people. They threatened lower caste people if you don't go. I mean, the government tried, but because of the threatening, the lower caste people did not
Yes,
approach the government, and then they said, no, we don't want land.
yes, yes.
Yeah, so otherwise it is the life threatened to them. So why would
Right,
they
right.
take a risk for their life?
Mm.
So as Ambedkar mentioned, it's mindset of the people. They should accept everybody is equal. So no problem. Let them get some land. So let them also grow. So until unless everyone have that mindset, and we can't have this egalitarian society and equality in this country. Even after implementing many policies, even if we reach 100th year of constitution, I doubt that this will happen because of this mindset of the people.
Right, right, right. The politicians are also afraid of that. They are after the votes.
Yes, yes,
That's why they can't implement it
yes,
strongly.
true. Yes, sir.
That
Yes,
is the problem.
true, true.
And
Yes.
I think if equal distribution land is not there, then our India
No,
cannot progress properly.
yes,
And
yes, true,
this is the
true.
big problem.
Yes.
Uh,
And there are some arguments also say that there is no productivity in agriculture. Everybody is trying. There is no water. Why do you need land? No, it's not about the productivity. It's not about the cultivation. It's about the pride. It's about the self-respect. When you have land,
yes, yes,
even just small portion of the land, people have they feel that they are respected very well. So everything in the village it decides based on their
yes,
land
yes.
land ownership.
No, you have rightly said that you see in Punjab, if this crop is affected by the any this natural calamity, then the insurance will go to the this owner of the land.
Yes, yes,
What that is leased off to the this
yes, to the
poor
other
people.
farmer.
You
Poor,
see,
yes,
yeah,
true, yes,
and they are getting the prime minister funds also.
yes,
And the people who are following that and this doing the job, they are not getting anything.
yes, yes, you are
They are
right.
being
Yes,
ruined. That is a big problem. That is a
yes,
big
sir.
problem. Yeah.
True, true. Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to me. Yes.
Thank you. Anybody else want to ask question? Okay, maybe the time is up now. Thank you, Karthik. Thank you for agreeing in such short notice to come and share your. And these findings are very, very important. And I suggest that you must apply for a big project from my sister in
Yeah.
some primary study because there are a lot of questions which cannot be answered through secondary data and SSO, which I was mentioning in my questions to you.
Yes, yes, yes,
That need to be examined also. So
yes,
it's a very good topic. You must, and I'm happy that you are part of Ambedkar Summer School as well as
yes, sir.
your article was published with us in Journal of
Yeah.
Social Inclusion Studies. Thank you, Karthik. Wonderful
Thank
work
you,
you are
sir.
doing. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for inviting me,
Thank
and thank you everybody for listening to me. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
thank you, dear friends.
Okay,
Thank
see
you.
you.
Bye bye. Good night.
Bye bye.